Hey everybody. Today I'm going to go through just a real quick presentation on solving multi-step equations. This should be review for you, so I'm not going to spend a too terribly long time doing this. If you already know how to solve multiple step equations, then you can go ahead and pause the video and go in and take the mastery quiz on it if you like. A multiple step equation looks something like this. They can have a lot of different looks actually, but essentially the idea is still the same. We want to try to get all of our variables on one side and all of our constants on the other side, so that way we have an x equals whatever situation. And we use the properties of the addition property of equality, the subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, division property of equality. We also use the distributive property, and we use all those in conjunction to do whatever we need to do to get x by itself. And there's some logical steps you can take. Sometimes you have a choice about what to do, and it just kind of comes down to however you want to solve it. So on this particular problem, logically, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and use the distributive property here on both sides. We can distribute 5 on the left side, distribute 3 on the right side. And so when I distribute 5 in on the left side, it's going to give me 10x plus 30. And on the right side, that's going to give me 12x minus 24. And so then now at this point we want to try to get our x's on the same side. Now we can do that a couple different ways. We could either subtract 12 from both sides, or we can subtract 10 from both sides. Personally, what I like to do is I always try to keep the coefficient of x on x positive. You don't have to do it that way. It's just what I always prefer when I'm solving these kind of equations. So I'm going to subtract 10x from both sides. And that's going to give me 30 on the left side is equal to 2x minus 24. And now you might recognize this as being a two-step equation like we were solving the other day. We have x by itself on one side, so now we need to get the constants on the other, so I can add 24 to both sides. That's using the addition property of equality. And so I get 54 is equal to 2x. And then divide everything by 2. Notice I'm not dividing it by 2x, just by 2. I get 27 is equal to x. And we can go through and you can always check equations, and you should, because it's an easy way to make sure that your answer is right. And so this is 5 times 27 times 2 is 54. And 3 times 4 times 27, that's 108. And 5 times 60 is equal to 3 times 100. And 5 times 60 is 300. And 3 times 100 is 300. And so it checks. And so x equals 27. I've got one more example, and that's, again, it's just a multiple step equation. On this one here, our first logical step here is to go ahead and distribute our 8. And so that's going to give me 8x minus 24 plus 5 equals negative 11. And now, on the left side here, notice I've got a negative 24 plus 5. Those are like terms. They're both constants. And so we can go ahead and combine those like terms on this left side before we go any further. Negative 24 plus 5 is negative 19. Like that. Now notice it's a two-step equation. Add 19 to both sides. We get 8x is equal to 8. Divide by 8, and we get x is equal to 1. And check our answer. 8 times 1 minus 3 plus 5 equals negative 11. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. 8 times negative 2 is negative 16 plus 5 equals negative 11, so that checks. So those are the only examples that I have on this. Again, the idea is always to get x on one side, get the variable, and get the constants on the other side, use the addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, multiplication, division properties of equality, or the distributive property to do that. Go ahead and take the mastery quiz. Remember, you can retake it. And if you have any questions, I'll be available during our regular hours for Zoom, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.